There's something wildly powerful about a woman who knows when to walk away, not because she's angry, not because she's trying to punish him, but because she knows she deserves more. See, the moment you let go, really let go, you stop trying to prove your worth to someone who should have already seen it, and that changes everything. Men don't fall harder because you texted less. They don't fall harder because you played some game. They fall harder because you walked away with your value intact. And trust me, when you do that, it shakes him. Because here's the truth. People only start to reflect when silence replaces noise. When your presence disappears, it forces a man to confront the reality of your absence. He starts to ask himself, why did she let me go? Did I lose something rare? Was she the one and I didn't see it? But by then, it's not about whether he sees it. It's about whether you still want to offer it. Letting go isn't weakness, it's power. The kind of power that comes from knowing your standards are not negotiable. You're not begging for someone to choose you. You're giving them the space to realize they missed their chance. You show him and the world that your peace matters more than his potential. So if you're in that place right now, wondering whether to hold on a little longer, am I holding on because he's showing up for me, or because I'm scared to let go? Because sometimes the boldest thing you can do, there's a moment in every woman's life where she has to make a choice, to keep fighting for something that isn't fighting for her, or to walk away with her self-respect intact. It's the moment you decide that your emotional well-being matters more than someone's inconsistent affection. A woman who lets go of what no longer serves her, whether that's a relationship, a situationship, or even the illusion of potential, is not giving up, she's leveling up. It's easy to keep hoping, keep texting, keep waiting for someone to realize your worth. What's hard is choosing yourself. But that kind of strength, that quiet, grounded, self-assured strength, it's magnetic. Not because it makes you cold or detached, but because it shows the world that your love is valuable and you will not settle for less than it deserves. And let's be real, a woman who knows how to let go doesn't have to yell, chase, or beg for someone to stay. And in doing so, she leaves a louder impact than any dramatic scene ever could. Because here's what most people don't understand. When you walk away with your head held high, it's not just about them. Not out of spite, not to play a game, but to give space for clarity, space for truth, and space for him to feel the absence of what he once had. Because when you're always available, always responding, always showing up, no matter how he shows up, it's easy for him to take you for granted. Not because he's a bad person, but because human nature is wired to appreciate more what we risk losing than what we always have. Absence has a way of cutting through the noise. When you step away, when you stop filling in the emotional gaps, when you let go, something shifts. And suddenly, the energy that was once taken for granted becomes painfully obvious in its absence. While you're emotionally tuned in, feeling the disconnection and questioning everything, he's often just in it, distracted, preoccupied, numb to the subtle ways your presence brings peace, warmth, and depth into his life. But once you're gone, once your energy is no longer wrapping around his chaos, he starts to feel the emptiness. And here's the thing. Reflection rarely happens in the noise of constant. In the quiet moments, when he reaches for the phone and realizes there's no message, no reminder that someone was once there, loving him when he barely noticed. That's when the real questions hit. Why do I miss her so much? Was she the one who truly saw me? Did I push away something rare? Letting go creates the emotional contrast he didn't know he needed. It interrupts the rhythm. It breaks the pattern. And suddenly, he's not comparing you to other women. He's comparing the silence of now to the safety of what you gave him. But here's the most beautiful part. You didn't create this shift by chasing him, convincing him, or performing for him. You created it by choosing you. You gave both of you the gift of clarity, the space to see what was real and what wasn't. And maybe he'll come back. Maybe he'll realize everything you were and everything he wasn't ready to be. The win is that you allowed truth to surface through absence. You stopped filling in the blanks. You stopped softening the impact of his choices, and you let reality speak louder than your presence ever could. Because absence doesn't mean the end. Sometimes it's the beginning of a deeper reflection, a deeper growth, and for him, a deeper regret. It's the beginning of not needing to be needed in order to be enough. It's how much you respect yourself even when your heart is invested. Because real attraction, the kind that sticks in someone's mind long after you're gone, comes from self-respect. When you let go of someone who's not meeting your standards, not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself more, you send a message without saying a word. I know what I bring to the table, and I refuse to beg someone to sit down. Is the woman who walks away calmly instead of chasing chaos. The woman who doesn't stay in confusion just to avoid being alone. The woman who says, I'd rather be at peace by myself than be disrespected with company. That's powerful. That's magnetic. That's unshakable. And here's the truth. Temporary affection can feel intoxicating. The late night texts, the sweet moments, the glimpses of potential. It can feel like enough until it's not. Because deep down you know, love without consistency is not enough. Attention without intention is not enough. And connection without respect is never enough. Self-respect is what allows you to say, I want love, but I want healthy love. I want connection, but not at the cost of my boundaries. I want a relationship, but I'm not afraid to lose the wrong one. That's when you shift the dynamic entirely. You're no longer trying to keep someone. You're allowing them to show up, and if they can't, you're not afraid to step away. That's exactly when they feel the deepest pull. Because the most attractive person in the room is the one who doesn't need to prove anything. They don't chase validation. They are the validation. Men feel that energy not in your words, but in your actions. When you walk away from disrespect, you show you're not just asking to be chosen. That confidence doesn't just attract someone, it awakens them. It forces them to rise or to fall away. And either way, you win. Because you're not waiting to be seen. You're already standing in your value. So the next time someone gives you inconsistency, confusion, or conditional affection, remember, you don't have to fight for the bare minimum. You don't have to lower your standards to keep someone close. And you don't have to lose yourself to feel loved. You're not hard to love. You're just unwilling to be loved the wrong way. And the woman who holds her self-respect above temporary attention, push, pull, give, take, pursue, retreat. And in this dance, most people fall into predictable roles. One chases, one pulls away, one gives more, one gives just enough. But the moment you walk away with clarity, you disrupt the entire dynamic. Because suddenly, you're no longer reacting. You're not trying to hold it all together. You're not negotiating your worth to stay in someone's life. See, when you're always available, always trying, always accommodating, you become expected, predictable, easy to overlook. But when you step back, not out of ego, but out of self-awareness, you change the game. You're no longer the one chasing. You're the one choosing. And that difference, it's everything. Because most men aren't used to that. They're used to women overgiving. They're used to second chances before they've earned them. They're used to being forgiven before they've changed. So when you say, I'm done trying to convince you to see my value, it makes him realize he's not being pursued anymore. He's being left behind. And in that moment, something clicks. You were the prize all along. And no, this isn't about playing games. This isn't about manipulation. It's about recalibrating the dynamic to reflect what's true. Because the truth is, you shouldn't have to perform to be appreciated. You shouldn't have to beg to be chosen. And you shouldn't have to chase someone into loving you. When you let go, you're no longer in the loop of trying to prove your place. You're standing in your power, knowing that someone who really sees you won't need to be convinced. And here's what often happens. When the dynamic changes, when you stop pouring into someone who gave you drops, it forces them to feel the gap. And they realize they weren't leading. They were being carried. Now they have to step up. And more importantly, did I even deserve it in the first place? The shift isn't just about what they realize. It's about what you realize, that you never needed to chase. And that love doesn't require self-abandonment, and that true power comes from knowing when to hold on and when to walk away. So if you've been stuck in that pattern, always being the one to fix, to chase, to try, because the woman who disrupts the dynamic, she doesn't lose power. Because as long as you're holding space, making excuses, staying patient, even when your needs aren't being met, you're actually protecting him from the consequences of his own inaction. He doesn't have to grow. He doesn't have to show up. He doesn't have to evolve, because you're still there, loving him through the version of himself that hasn't yet risen to meet you. With the reality that the woman who believed in him has moved on. Not just what he lost, but who he has to become if he ever wants to experience that kind of love again. Because true love isn't just about being accepted. It's about being inspired to be better. And sometimes the only way a man gets that wake-up call is by losing the one who saw his potential before he did. You see, your absence creates contrast. It forces him to compare who he was when he had you and who he is now without your support, your presence, your belief. And here's the truth he starts to realize. You weren't asking for too much. You were simply asking for him to be more aligned with the man he claimed he wanted to be. Letting go isn't about punishing him. It's about releasing someone who's not ready to meet you where you stand. But the beauty in that release, it often becomes the very thing that pushes him to grow. Because sometimes men don't change when you're there, hoping and waiting. They change when you leave and they're forced to sit with what they've lost. That's when the reflection starts. That's when the ego quiets down and the truth gets loud. That's when he starts to ask himself, why did she stop fighting for me? Did I really give her what she deserved? Am I the kind of man who could keep a woman like that or just lose her? And here's the most important part. Your decision to walk away with love, with grace, with strength, isn't just the moment that triggers his growth. It's also the moment you step deeper into yours, because you're no longer trying to mold someone into their potential. You're creating space for someone who's already living it. And when you choose yourself first, you create the life and the love that truly elevates you. A love where you never have to compromise your standards, your worth, or your peace of mind. Thank you for listening, and remember, you don't have to chase. You are already enough. And the world will show up when you start showing up for yourself first. Thanks again, and stay empowered.